Covenant in the Quran. In Shia Islam, the term Day of the Covenant, or Yom al-Mithaq, is equated with the day that Ali was appointed the successor to Muhammad. The covenant is a major idea in Islam, as it is in all Abrahamic faiths. The Quran has many instances of the mention of the term covenant. The Quranic terminology for covenant is, on the one hand, mithaq, and on the other hand, ad. Both terms come to mean to covenant or a covenant. The definition of mithaq is a noun that signifies covenant, agreement, treaty, or alliance. Mithaq can be used to describe an agreement between two parties. It is a confirmed contract guaranteed by an oath. In the Quran, the covenant between God and His servants is mentioned as many as 26 times. Allah took the covenant from the prophets, and remember when we took from the prophets their covenant. There are many prophets and messengers of Allah, but only 5 are of Ulul al-Azm, with strong will. They are Muhammad, Noah, Abraham, Moses, and Jesus. The above verse specifies them as strong upholders of the covenant with Allah. And from you, Muhammad, and from Noah, Abraham, Moses, and Jesus, son of Mary, we made with them a strong covenant. Quran 33:7. The Quran mentions the covenant of God with the children of Israel very often. For example, and we made with them a firm covenant. Ayat 4:154. Allah reminds the Jews in the Quran of His covenant on different occasions, including, and we made a covenant with the children of Israel. Ayat 2, verse 83. The definition of ad is ad, injunction, command, thence obligation, engagement, thence agreement, covenant, treaty. The term, as well as the first and third forms of the corresponding verb, occurs frequently in the Quran. It is used there over the whole range of its meaning, of Allah's covenant with men and His commands, of the religious engagement into which the believers have entered, or political agreements and undertakings of believers and unbelievers towards the Prophet and amongst each other, and of ordinary civil agreements and contracts. Occasionally the agreement is personified. It will be asked to give evidence. From the idea of God's covenant derive the Christian Arabic terms al-Ad al-Atiq and al-Ad al-Jadid for the Old and New Testament respectively. The basic concrete concept is joining together, whereas the synonym aqd derives from the concrete idea of binding, and later usage the latter term is commonly used of civil engagements and contracts, whereas ad is generally restricted to political enactments and treaties, in particular to the appointment of a successor, a wali al-ad, by a ruler, and to treaties of alliance with non-Muslims outside the Islamic State, who are therefore called al-ad. Thus last term is occasionally extended on one side to the Muslimin, and on the other hand to dhimis, those who are not Muslim. Both aman and dhima are indeed a political ad with religious sanction. In forming the conversation on covenant, we are left with pre-Islamic precedents for understanding the covenant in the Tanakh, Old Testament. In the New Testament there are several covenants made, a covenant with Adam, Noah, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Moses, the children of Israel, David, and Jesus. In the Quran, not all the same covenants are mentioned. There is a primordial covenant with Adam, covenants with Noah, Abraham, and Ishmael, with Moses, with the children of Israel, and with Jesus. These are the explicit mentionings of covenants in the Quran 33:7, which is, and when we exacted a covenant from the prophets, and from thee, O Muhammad, and from Noah, and Abraham, and Moses, and Jesus, son of Mary, we took from them a solemn covenant. This term used here is mithaq. It is very controversial that between the Bible and the Quran, the covenant of Abraham's children goes to two different lines, with the Quranic being that of Ishmael, while the biblical is that of Isaac. There is also no direct mention of the covenant with David, although David is given a special book of Revelation, the Psalms, known as Zabur. In Psalms, the Davidic covenant is mentioned there In Psalms, the Davidic covenant is mentioned. There is no mention in the Quran to refute the Davidic covenant, although one could argue that because the Quran's mention that Jesus, Isa bin Maryam, is anointed Messiah, that the idea of the Davidic kingship is explicitly mentioned through the appointing of Jesus in the Quran as the anointed of God. In the covenant of the children of Israel, there may also be an oblique reference to the Davidic kingship. In the Quran, there are 43 references to Banu Israel, the Islamic term for the Israelites, which means children of Israel. There is a surah, which is a chapter in the Quran titled Bani Israel, the children of Israel, which is also known as Al-Isra, the night journey. This surah was revealed in the year before Hijrah and takes its name from Surah 17:4. Also, starting from verse 40 in Surah Al-Baqarah, that's Surah number 2, also known as the cow, is the story of Banu Israel. Finally, there is Quran verse in which Moses addresses his followers as Muslims, meaning in English, those who submit to God. In Surah Al-Araf, verses 158 and 159, there was also mention of the 12 tribes. 158 states, "And of Moses' folk there is a community who lead with truth and establish justice therewith. We divided them into 12 tribes, nations, and we inspired Moses, when his people asked him for water, saying, Smite with thy staff the rock, and there gushed forth therefrom 12 springs, so that each tribe knew their drinking place. And we caused the white cloud to overshadow them, and sent down from them manna and the quails, saying, Eat of the good things therewith we have provided you. They wronged us not, but they were wont to wrong themselves." A further possible reference to the Davidic kingship in the Quran is Surah 32, verses 23 and 24. "We verily gave Moses the scripture, so be not ye in doubt out of his receiving, and we appointed it a guidance for the children of Israel. And when they became steadfast and believed firmly in our revelations, we appointed from among them leaders who guided by our command." The covenant with the children of Israel is a very contentious issue in Islamic theology, with more moderate scholars putting forth the argument that the covenant that the children of Israel shall inherit, what has become known as the modern state of Israel, is Quranic based, while Islamists have put forward arguments that the covenant with the children of Israel is revoked, and hence they are not promised the land of Israel in the Quran. The covenant is a key instrument in understanding the difference between a strong covenant and other covenants, for in Islam, the strong covenants go to the strong messengers, which are Rasul, that revealed a divine book of laws, a Sharia. These strong messengers, Ulul Azim, are the ones mentioned specifically as having a covenant in the Quran: Noah, Abraham, Moses, Jesus, and Muhammad. The covenants mentioned specifically in the Quran go only to messengers with divine laws, Sharia. The other messengers and or prophets, Nabi, through there may be a biblical covenant, they are not mentioned specifically in the Quran. An interesting passage occurs in the Quran in relation to the covenants of the prophets in Ayah 381. When Allah made his covenant with the prophets, he said, Behold that which I have given you of the scripture and knowledge, and afterward there will come unto you a messenger, a Rasul, confirming that which ye possess. Ye shall believe in him, and ye shall help him. He said, Do you agree, and will you take up my burden which I lay upon you in this matter? They answered, We agree. He said, Then bear ye witness. I will be a witness with you. Here we have the covenant in an eschatological context. After the covenants are made with the prophets, a figure shall come. It is not Muhammad, it is a reference to a future personage that shall be a messenger, a Rasul. Not every prophet is a Rasul, not every Rasul reveals a book of laws, a Sharia. So here we must have a messenger that will not reveal a book of laws, but rather confirms all the previous scriptures and the knowledge contained within. This is undoubtedly eschatological in context. So we see in the overall schema of the Quran is interested mainly in the covenants of the major messengers, the Ulul Azim,